Air Force One with Trump forced to turn around after electrical issue. President Donald Trump returned to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland late January 20 after the crew on his Air Force One identified a minor electrical issue after departing for Switzerland, the White House said. The issue was identified shortly after Air Force One took off to fly to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the aircraft turned around out of an abundance of caution. The aircraft landed at Joint Base Andrews at 11:07 p.m. ET, according to the White House. Shortly before midnight, Trump boarded a smaller Air Force One jet and headed off on his trip to the World Economic Forum. According to pool reporters at the scene, while holding on original Air Force One, your pool saw a lot of commotion, including several staffers deplaning with their bags. The crew on the plane was hustling to make the transition, quickly moving boxes of fruit, wrapped sandwiches and beverages in and out. At least one ran past the press cabin. Others, outside on the ground, were seen pulling about a dozen suitcases off the plane and placing them onto a truck. The presidential air transport fleet consists of two specially configured Boeing planes that have been used for decades, according to the U.S. Air Force. Boeing has been working. Vice President J.D. Vance will travel to Minnesota amid tensions over ICE. Vice President J.D. Vance will visit Minneapolis, Minnesota on Thursday, a person familiar with his plans said Jan. 20. Vance will hold a roundtable with community members and deliver remarks in the city where the Trump administration is fighting to continue its immigration operations. Vance has defended the killing of Renee Good by an immigration and customs enforcement officer, calling it a tragedy of her own making, and alleging she was part of vast left-wing extremist network. The shooting prompted protests and has provoked bitter dispute between state and local officials. The Trump administration's expanded immigration enforcement raids and office's aggressive tactics have stirred protests and increasing calls from local officials for ICE to leave the city. Vance also visited Minnesota in September with his wife to pay his respects to the victims of the mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church. On August 27, a shooter firing through the windows of the church during a school mass. An 8-year-old and 10-year-old were killed in the mass shooting at the church, which includes a school for grades preschool through 8th. Another 18 people were injured, including 15 children and 3 parishioners in their 80s, authorities said. Vice President J.D. Vance will travel to Minnesota amid tensions over ICE. Vice President J.D. What 8 wars is Trump talking about in texts with European leaders? President Donald Trump told Norway's Prime Minister he was no longer prioritizing peace after having stopped 8 wars plus. Texts released from the Norwegian Prime Minister's office are part of a slate of texts being made public amid tensions with Europe and his appearance at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Trump also posted screenshots of messages with French President Emmanuel Macron, who said, "I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland." Trump's text to Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store linked his desire for a U.S. takeover in Greenland to losing the Nobel Peace Prize. The prize was awarded to the Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado by the Norwegian Nobel Committee, which is independent from the government. "Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace," Trump's message said. "The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland." What 8 wars is he referring to? Here's what we know. Since Trump took office in January 2025, the United States has been involved in 6 ceasefires or peace agreements, though not all parties involved credit the U.S. for the agreements. Those include Armenia and Azerbaijan, the 2 former Soviet republics, and Trump signed a peace agreement at the White House on August 8, ending a decades-long war. The leaders of the countries gave Trump ample praise for his efforts at the ceremony. Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Trump announced a treaty between the African nations in a June 20 social media post, crediting Secretary of State Marco Rubio for helping to bring them together. The fighting has continued after the agreement, though Trump said the conflict may wind down in a great miracle at a December 4 event. Iran and Israel. Trump announced on June 23 a ceasefire